Hey guys, welcome back to the shop, and welcome to part 2 of the indexing angle plate build. It's been a crazy busy week, and we still got a lot of work to go. We gotta make a fixture, we gotta machine that slug down, we gotta drill the holes and tap the holes. That's a lot to do on my schedule, so let's go in here and get started, or we're never gonna get finished. Alright guys, now in part 1, we machined this face and this bore, and we checked to see if this bore was parallel with the foot, and right now we're fairly satisfied that it is, or at least I am. I'm fairly satisfied that the bore is parallel with the foot, and you know that can change. It's cast iron and we machined it, and it can creep, so we'll see as the build goes on if we need to do anything farther with the foot, and we may scrape it in, we don't know. But we need to work on the slug, or the work holding face, that we're going to make for this guy. This big slug of stainless is going to go in this bore and hold our work and be indexable. So we need to put this in the lathe and turn it down to fit this bore. But we want to turn up real tight, and we're only going to have a little lip left here, so we got to come up with a fixture to hold this guy in the forejaw. That way we can turn up tight on the shoulder and there's no danger of this thing flying out of the chuck with just a little bite from the jaws that it would require for me to get the shape that I want. So let's go over to the bench and come up with a plan to hold this guy. Alright, and we got, for our work holding face, we got this big slug of stainless. And I would much rather use a big slug of cast iron, but I don't have a big slug of cast iron, I have a big slug of stainless. So that's what I'm going to use. And it already has two half 13 bolt holes in it, and they're spaced center to center 3 inches apart. And I need to bolt this to the fixture that I'm going to hold in the forejaw to machine it, because I got to go up tight on this shoulder like I said. I've got this old crusty piece of mild steel and this piece of 1.5 inch stainless steel pipe. I'm going to drill 2 bolt holes in this to where it'll mount on the face. I'm going to weld my piece of stainless to the back of this piece of mild steel and bolt it to it. Then, before I bolt this to the face of this, I'll turn this face flat in the lathe. That way it is parallel with the movement of the cross slide. That way I don't have to worry about this face here being offset because of the inaccuracies in my mild steel. So we'll turn our fixture, we'll weld it, we'll drill the holes in it, we'll turn our fixture, and then we can bolt our work to it accurately, and then I'll be confident that it's at least straight, and I hope that it's strong enough to hold it and not get a lot of chatter. But I'll show you the welding part, and I'll show you the facing part, but the rest of it's pretty basic stuff. So I'll meet you at the welding bench and we can get this guy stuck together. Alright guys, we've centered this within reason. We've drilled our holes and I put on my best clothes, so let's get this thing welded together. That'll hold it. Maybe. Alright guys, we put our bracket that we just welded, we let it cool on its own. We stuck it in the forejaw, and I didn't even really try to center the bracket at all. I don't care, you know, I got, all I care is that this piece is you know, true. And then I come in and I faced the front of this bracket by itself. Then I bolted my slug, soon to be, work holding face, to the piece. And now we're gonna, try to indicate this thing in. So there's my high point. Alright, there's that. Check out here. We're going to just a hair out, lopsided, but not much. Alright, now let's check the face. And we're within 5 thousandths. That's pretty good. Alright, I'm going to get my tooling set up and I'll bring it back. Alright guys, you're looking at the face here. We got about 5 to 7 thousandths probably total to knock off this. I don't want to take any more than 10 off of it. And we're just going to take it light, about 5 thousandths per rotation and about 371 RPM on the spindle. I'm going to show you this facing cut, and then I'm going to change up my tooling, and then we'll come back and start working the sides, working the OD to the proper dimension. And then I'll show you a few passes, and then I'll bring you back when we're almost finished, and we'll test fit this guy. Real nice, man. It's like glass. Alright, I'm going to change tooling and then we'll start on the outside. Alright, instead of changing tooling, guys, I just decided to turn this tool post around, and I'm going to rough this off with this carbide insert, and then when I'm really close to the final dimension, I'll come in with a good square tool steel and make me a good square shoulder here. So we're just going to rough with this for a while, and I'll show you a few passes, and then I'll bring you back when we're test fit, basically. Alright guys, we're getting really close. We're at 5 inches right now, 5 5/10 I believe on our outside dimension right now. We got about an 1/8 inch shoulder here. Well, we got more than 1/8 inch. I'll come in and finish it. That'll be the last thing I do, is to true this shoulder. But right now it's hot. Well, not hot, but it's pretty warm. So I'm going to wait till it cools, down to a good low temperature. That way I can get a good accurate measurement on it. You really can't measure anything hot, because it'll always show on the big side. And then if I was to just come in here and hog this off, I would end up and then measure, and it's hot, you can't even put your hand on it. When it cools, it's going to shrink. So we We're letting it cool so we can get the most accurate part. I've ground a tool here for working this shoulder and relieving this inside corner, because we don't want that sharp, corner in there. Well, we don't want the radius from this tool in this corner, because that'll interfere when we go to put it together. But we don't have a lot to go. Like I said, we're about 70-something thousandths off, and here's the tool, and it's just a carbide insert, or not insert, carbide, brazed carbide tool, just out of the old tool pile. And I've ground it to my needs, and it's not flat. It's slightly angled. That'll give me the clearance to get up in that corner. I can angle the tool, run down the work, and then run out the shoulder. That way this shoulder and this surface here are 90 degrees to each other. And we can also come in and plunge a little in this corner just to get away from that sharp edge, because that will interfere. Alright guys, this thing's still a little too hot for me to machine, so I got a few minutes, so what better time to push a few different channels. The channel's still small, and I didn't get where I'm at, as far as big as I am, with no help. I've had lots of help, and a lot of help from some of the big guys, and some help from small guys. I don't put anyone's help above anyone else's, but help is help. And I want to tell you about the channels that I watch, and I want to suggest that you go watch and subscribe to these guys. Now, I'm just going to push the small guys, because most of you know the big guys, and I'll name them off real quick. Adam Booth, Keith Fenner, Keith Rucker, This Old Tony, Mr. Pete 222, DeResta, and many others. And I'm not, Stefan Gottswinner, I consider him a big channel. He's not near as big as he should be, because of, as far as I'm concerned, the guy's, really good. So, those guys, those are the big guys, and most people know those. But the small guys that you may not be aware of, small guys like me, I'm still small, so. But I would like for you to go at least check these guys out. They all offer something different that you may enjoy. And these are in no specific order. We got Matt from Look Creations, and, a neat channel. He's scraping in a shaper, and he does a pretty good job as far as I'm concerned. And he got me kind of started in this. Not intentionally. He didn't say, "Hey, why don't you start making videos?" But watching him do his thing, in his shop, showing mistakes and all, kind of inspired me to do this, and I really enjoy it. And I'm going to continue to do it as long as people watch. So check out Matt from Look Creations. If you like shapers and stuff, check him out. Then we got Shaper Andy. Shaper Andy. He is a character. He's always doing shaper work. He's funny to watch. I really like some of the stuff that he gets into. He makes fixtures and whatnot for the shaper, and for his grinder and stuff. So he's a really good channel. I like watching him. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and so you should check him out, Shaper Andy. And then we have Wes Johnson. Wes is a channel just basically like me. He's growing pretty quick, and that's good. He done just a recent video on headstock alignment on the lathe, and he does a really good job of it. He's not, in my opinion, he's no amateur. He knows his stuff. So check out Wes Johnson. He also does a scraping demo if you like, scraping. And then, we have Chirpy's Tinker. I like watching old Chirpy. He's always into something. Steam engine build is what he's doing right now, and lathe, working on his old lathe. And casting, he does some casting. And so check him out, Chirpy's Tinkering. And then last but not least, and I don't want to leave anybody out, and if I did, I'll get you next time. But last but not least is Richard at Making Something From Nothing. And that's the YouTube, is Making Something From Nothing. The guy's into casting and lathe work and projects like that, and I really enjoy watching him. He's always in my comment section, always, pushing me, my name. you know, and I really appreciate it. So check out him, you know, making something from nothing. The guy's name is Richard. He's super nice. So, you know, that's about it. You know, I'm sure that's not all of them. And if I remember, I'll pick them up on the next video. But check those guys out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. All of them offer something different, and they're who I watch in my spare time. And my spare time's not very much. So, you know, check them out. I'd appreciate it. And let's get this thing ready because it's probably about cool by now. Pull off 20. We're getting close. Stainless was not the best option for this, I know that, but it's what we had, so that's why we're using it. As that fits, I think I'm just going to do a spring. And that's it. Fairly warm. I want to kind of just ever so slightly knock this corner off. I'll do that probably with just a light small file because I want a good defined edge here really. I'm just going to knock the sharp part off because my index lines will be on there and I want the two lines to line up. Yeah, probably once it cools down, wears in a little bit, that's perfect. Now, I'll get you a better angle and we'll come in and do this corner. Alright, you're over the lathe and you're looking down on that little bit here, or little tool that I ground, and I offset it at slightly an angle. That way I can come in and square this shoulder with this surface here. Now, what I'm going to do is bring the tool over to it till I touch this face, and then I'll zero my carriage stop, and then I'm going to come in and touch this face, and I'll zero my cross slide movement, and then we'll just come in and reface this and then go right below our 0. That way we know that this corner, the corner here, is slightly recessed from this edge here. That's the plan anyway. So let's do it. Come in and let's do this first. Touch here. Oh, that's more than a touch. It's alright, it hurt none. It would help if we locked our carriage stop. And we're oversized anyway, so it doesn't matter. There we go. Let's touch here. Sorry if my big head's in the way, but I gotta be able to see too. 0. Come in from the edge. Chip out of the way. We'll come in and do this one more time also. Smacking us in the face. I'm going to take a couple thousandths out on the compound movement, or add a couple. Yeah, let's get that mistake out of there. These long stringy chips like it's making are really dangerous. Good enough. Now I'm confident that that 90-degree shoulder is now below the surface of this. That way, you know, nothing interferes with anything on the clamping fixture. So I'm going to take a file and knock this off here just a little. We got a little burr back here. There it is. There it is. Awesome. Let's go over to the bench and look at it. Well guys, this thing has turned out every bit as good as I expected, if not better. The fit is absolutely perfect in my opinion for and off the, you know, for doing it on the lathe and whatnot. The slug, you know, fits in here just right. You know, you don't want it to be any bit loose, but you want it to be, you know, a little I wanted it to just ever so slightly hang up on the outside edges here and then just have to pop it down. That way we know that it's, you know, a good fit. And the same with the top. You know, it ended up real well. It snaps together, if that tells you how good, you know, the fit is. You know, now it is a little tight, you know, when you go to turn it, but that's fine. If we would have machined it, you know, slightly small, we would have ended up with basically 2 points of contact when this thing clamps together. We would have had a point up here and a point down here, you know, and it would have been, you know, had a cavity all the way around it. Even if it's small, that I didn't want that. So, you know, other than hand scraping, I think this fits about as good as it's going to get for off the lathe. I'm really happy with it, and it's really square too, as far as I can just tell, just with a machinist square. You know, we can always come in and you know, refine it later with the scraping, but you can index it. It is a little tight, but it'll work in. You know, I'm fine with that. That's what I wanted. And I got a Starrett number 20. Yeah, number 20, 6-inch. It's the biggest one I got, and I'm putting it on a brown and sharp parallel just to get it up on the face a little bit. And I'm just checking to see if we're square to the foot, you know, just the face of this slug. And it just, I mean, you know, that's good, man. That is, you know, as far as just an angle plate, I'm fine with that. You know, we're a little shy on the back. You know, that slug wasn't quite big enough, you know, for the width of this bracket. We're a little shy here, but that's no problem. You know, I could always come in and face this ring down to that same level as the slug here. It's no problem. There we go so far. Man, I'm so happy with that. Yeah, that's great. I need a bigger square. You know, having this one's not even in great shape, but it's accurate, but it's got some surface rust on it. It's good enough. Alright guys, we're over here at the milling machine. This big piece of junk. I mean, fine piece of equipment. It really is a fine piece of equipment. It's in real good shape. We got a couple problems. One, my setup is too tall for me to use a standard length 27/64 drill bit for the 1/2-13. So I'm going to have to cut this off and regrind it, which is not really a problem. And, you know, I could just center drill this and then take it over to the drill press and drill it. But in my opinion, that drill press just runs too fast for bits of this size, especially on stainless. Anybody who's dealt with stainless, and I believe that this is 3/16 by the way it cuts. Anybody who's dealt with stainless knows that it is a nightmare to drill and to tap. You know, it's gummy, it work hardens, it loves to break taps, it, you know, gulls threads. It's just not the ideal material for what we're using it for. But like I said before, I've got a big piece of stainless. I don't have a big piece of cast iron, so we're using it, and it'll be fine. You know, you just got to know the limitations of it and work within those. That's the only thing. We've been doing that forever. So I'm gonna get this thing all set up. It's still not even in the chuck, you know, yet. I haven't centered it, nothing. I'm gonna get it all set up. I'm gonna go cut this drill bit off, and I'll bring you back. Alright guys, we ground our little bit. We cut it off. This is 27/64, grounded. We cut it off short, that way we got clearance, and we used our drill gauge. And, you know, what better way to test it than on a project you don't want to mess up and a big nasty piece of stainless. So, you know, it looks good, but, you know, the real test will be, will it pull a chip on each tooth? We'll see. Alright. Let's get you a focus back there. Now the plan is, I'm just going to come in and put 4 more bolt holes in this thing. It's got 2 existing, and I don't know about you, but it wouldn't matter where I put these bolt holes. They'd never be correct, you know, to where I need them for whatever project I'm doing. And I really, in the future, plan to put a big plate on this anyway, you know, a square plate that I can use to put, you know, a bunch of bolt holes in. Because this is just going to be awful small working surface, and that bracket is more than strong enough to hold a big plate. So that's what we plan to do in the future. So I'm going to get this started, and then I'll bring you in a little closer. When drilling stainless, you definitely don't want to go too fast, and you want to keep the bit cutting. You want to keep plenty of lubricant on it, and make sure that it's got enough pressure to where it's pulling a chip. Otherwise, it'll work harden at the bottom of the hole, and you're done. Chips clear. Time to see how we did on grinding this thing. We don't care as long as it cuts, to be honest. Pretty good. Could be worse. We did it. That's number 1. I'm going to do the rest of them and I'll bring you back. Alright guys, now I've already tapped 2 of these because we're finished with the holes, and 2 of them are done, and I'm going to show you one. And hand tapping stainless is a nightmare. I mean, everybody knows that's dealt with it, especially I think this is 316 because it sure does cut like it, man. It's gummy. But, you know, hand tapping it, you just got to go slow. There is no, you know, there's no easy way to do it. It just, break a chip, you know, cut a little bit, break the chip, and then go back at it. So the main hard part is just getting it good and straight. And you want to apply, you know, once you get it started straight, you want to apply pressure just for rotation. You don't want to be pushing just on one handle. You want to use them both. Just rotate them. Come back and break the chip. That's the way I do it anyway. Well guys, this thing's turned out great so far. As far as I'm concerned, I even think it looks pretty good. But, you know, we got all our holes drilled and tapped successfully without breaking anything. The drill bit that we cut off and hand ground on the bench grinder turned out really well, and I'm glad it did because this stainless is a pain to drill and tap. you only got to see a really small portion of me turning this guy down. You know, it's just so much footage, you know, you'd have been bored out of your mind because it took me forever. Just coming in, letting it cool down, skimming it, you know, once I got really close to the end to make sure that it fits and it stays fitting. I'm really pleased, you know, with the fit. I don't think I could have really done any better. You know, it should stay good for, you know, my lifetime, as long as I take care of it and keep it clean. We need to put a big plate on here. You know, that was kind of the intention all along. There's just not enough real estate here to really do much work on. So we're going to put a big plate on this thing, you know, in the future. You know, this bracket's definitely beefy enough to handle a... Beefy. Yeah, it's definitely beefy enough to handle, you know, a bracket on the front. In part 3, you know, I'm going to bring the shaper in with the rotary table and index this slug. That's the plan anyway, and subject to change like always. You know, we're going to put a reference mark on this casting and, you know, graduate this or index this slug. So that's coming up, and I think that'll be a video all in itself. Make sure to check out the people that I mentioned before, the channels. They're young, or not all of them are young channels, but they're all growing channels, and I could all use your support. And they all offer, you know, a similar flavor of the same thing, but, you know, in a different way. So check them out, and check out Emma from Emma's Spare Room Machine Shop. You know, she's doing some pretty neat stuff that you may enjoy. I really like watching her also. If you'd like to help the channel out and help us grow, hit the donate button on the home page in the upper right hand corner. A little goes a long way, and that would help us out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit my little guy. Hit the bell to be notified of new videos, because part 3 is coming soon. I really appreciate you watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.